Hello friends, this is tutorial number 52 in this C++ programming language tutorials. Okay, in the previous tutorial we learned how can we access to the private fields. We have these private fields and we created these public functions. And with these public functions we can access to some of the private field when we need them. We created these public functions here. We define them in the apartment CPP, and now we can use these functions to find apartment that we need. We have couple of options here, and let's start. First, we need the cheapest apartment. For that, we need to create a function. It will be void function. We will call it cheapest apartment. And as a parameter, we will have a vector of apartments of the object apartment. It will be A. We can use A because this is only a local variable. And we will need to create a couple of variables. We need apartment, which will be cheapest, and let's create it. We will call it cheapest, but we cannot use now. We need to we will need to create but this we have a constructor and we will need to define. And how can we do that? We need to initialize, and by default we will define it equals. It will be we have vector of apartments. All of these apartments are in the vector, and it will be this vector of apartment, which is A. And we will type we can type it can be front or A of element 0. We can define, you can define as you want. Okay, let's define it with front. And it will be by default, it means that by default it will be A1, because A1 is the first element of this vector, but it doesn't matter. We just define this is just a variable local. We by that we just initialize our apartment, and we will find it. But we will also need, it is the cheapest, we will need integer which will be minimum, and we will initialize that minimum with 0. But there's one more thing. We want to find the cheapest apartment, but we don't have a price. When we will see these fields. We have city, area, room, floor. We have a price per square meter, but we don't want the cheapest price per square meter. We want the cheapest price of apartment. This is big difference. We will need a price. And let's create this local variable price. We will not initialize, we will just create. And what we want to do, we want to find the cheapest apartment, and we want to write some message. It will be cout the cheapest apartment and line And now how we gonna do that? We will use a for loop, and we'll use unsigned integer x equals to 0. The same thing as we did in the previous for loop. X will be lesser than vector of apartment a dot size. Okay, I use reverse vector. It will be a dot size and x plus plus. And now let's start. First, what we want to do, we need the control statement, but before control statement we need to define our price. And let's define price will be equals, we don't have a price, but we have a field. What will give us a price? We have a price per square meter, and which is an integer, and we have area, which is also an integer. We need to multiply the area with the price per square meter. And what we need to do, we have apartment, we have a vector of apartments A, and of element, all of the apartments are in the vector. Apartments in the vector. We have a vector A, and of element X, which is apartment, but we need area of that apartment, and we need to multiply with a vector A of element X, which is apartment, and dot price per square meter. This will give us the price of the apartment. But of course, this loop will run. We will have 4 prices. First will be element 0. We will find for the 0 element of the vector we have 4 elements. No, we don't have 4. We have 3 elements, 4 apartments, and element 0, element 1, element 2, and element 3. We will find the price of the all apartments, but we want to find the cheapest apartment. And now we need control statement, which will be if we need 2 opening brackets, minimum equals to 0, or minimum is greater than price. And now let's define the minimum. Minimum will be equals to price, and as I already told you, here we just initialize by default that cheapest apartment. By default it is just first element of the vector, but inside this for loop we will redefine, we will find the minimum price, and we will redefine our cheapest apartment. And cheapest will be equals to this apartment, and this will be A of element X. And now we define which is the cheapest apartment. And now what we need to do here, where this for loop ends, first we can write a price, because we want the cheapest and it's normal to we know the price. Let's type price, but we will not use variable price, because we will have we define where this for loop starts. First thing that we will do, we will define price, but first we will have a price of the element 0, and we will have later, when start with element 1, price will be redefined, and we will have price of element 3. We will not use variable price, we will use minimum. And end the line. And now what can we do? We'll just use cheapest. We found cheapest apartment, and we will just use apartment scan. We just want to be display which apartment is the cheapest one. And the similar thing we can do now. I think it will be better. It will be better. We want to find most expensive, but I think it will be a little more easier to copy this function. We will use copy, and just a second, here we will paste it, and we will need to change some values. Okay, it is cheapest apartment. It will not be cheapest, it will be most. The name of the function will be most expensive apartment. And here apartment cheapest, we will define apartment most expensive by default it will be front or apartment of element. Okay, we can define it A of element 0. It's the same thing as I already explained you when we learn with vectors. A of element 0 or A dot front, it's just first element of the vector. We can, of course, we can type of element 1, it doesn't matter, but when you want to define something from vector by default or array by default, it's normal that use A of element 0 if you use array or vector, and in the vector we can use front. And here instead of minimum we will have maximum. And okay, we have a price. Here instead of the cheapest we will have the most expensive. Okay, this for loop starts the same. Price, okay, it is the same. And here instead of minimum we will have a maximum, and instead of greater we will put a lesser than price, and here maximum will be equals to price, and instead of cheapest we will have most expensive. Okay, in the previous function we looked for the minimum, here we looked for the maximum. Okay, we have a price, and price will be maximum, and we will use apartment scan, but we will use for the most expensive. Okay, and with these two functions we found the cheapest and the most expensive apartment, but now here the cheapest is option number 2. Here in the case number 2 we will call the function cheapest apartment, and as a parameter will be apartments vector. And in the case number 3 we will call the function most expensive apartment, as a parameter it will be apartments vector. And now what can we do? We can try to build and run this application. We resolved option number 2. And okay, what we have here? Okay, area is private. Okay, we made a mistake. We made a mistake. Okay, I explain you, but okay, area is private. We used. I know where the error is. We have here cheapest apartment. Instead of we defined price, and instead of area we need to use get. We use fields instead of okay, here is price, here will be get price per square meter. And also here we use copy paste, and error is also here, will be get area, and we will have instead it will be get price per square meter. Now I deleted. Get price per square meter. Okay, it was my mistake. And now let's because we are not as I explained you, these fields are private, but when we need to access the private fields we need to use get function. And now let's try to build and run to see if it will work now. Just a second. Here we forgot to delete the second. When we use here the most expensive, we just need one closing bracket. Let's try again. Okay, now it's okay. Select one of the options. We have the cheap. Let's find the cheapest apartment. And the cheapest apartment. Okay, we have a price 48,000. Okay, city Sofia. Okay, and we know that this is true because this is the minimum. It's the lowest area. It's 60, and it has the minimum price per square meter, and by default, and we can see price is 48,000, area is 60, price per square meter is 800, and it's 48,000, which should be good. Now we can just try to see build and run. Let's see the most expensive. Okay, the most expensive apartment is it cost 105,000, and it's in Warsaw, and we know that this is the true price per square meter is 1,500. It has area is 70. Okay, let's display once more. Display all apartments. Option 1. As you can see, apartment is Sofia, has area is 60, and price per square meter is 800. which should be the cheapest one, and in Warsaw it has the biggest price per square meter, and it should be by default. It is and we know that it's the most expensive. Of course, in Belgrade, apartment in Belgrade has area of 80 square meters, but the price is cheaper, because here is 80, here is 70, but this price of 1,500, it's a lot of greater than price in the Belgrade. But okay, we can change something here where we defined define a price per square meter. Let's put just 150 in Warsaw. Okay, and now of course it will be the cheapest. And let's build and run, and we will see if it's worked properly. Let's find the cheapest apartment, and of course it will be in Warsaw. Now the price is 10,500, and price per square meter is just 150, and this means that it works properly. Now let's build and run again. And let's find the most expensive, and the most expensive is in Budapest now, because price per square meter is it has the same area, but the price per square meter is 1,200, and it is 84,000. We know that apartment in Belgrade has area of 80, but price per square meter is 1,000, and it's 80,000. This means that this works properly. And now I will just put back 1,500, and if I run again, okay, the cheapest now will be again in Sofia, which is 48,000. And let's build and run again. If I choose the most expensive, it will be apartment in Warsaw. This means that this works perfectly fine. Now what can we find? Okay, we can use now, or to find we have the lowest floor, highest floor. Okay, before we finish with this tutorial, let's find 3 rooms apartment. It will be easy. Okay, here we can create void function, and it will be 3 room. It will be 3 room name of the function, and it will be, as a parameter, will be vector of apartment A. And what we will have here, we want to find 3 room. We will need variable. The field room is float, and let's create variable room. It will be just this one is just a local variable, and we will define it. We are looking for number 3, and let's create. First we need to write some text. It will be apartments with 3 rooms. Okay, we are just looking for 3 rooms, no 3.5, just 3 rooms. And line, and of course we will use couple of stars. And now let's find apartment with three rooms. Of course we will use for loop to iterate over vector of apartments. Unsigned integer x equals to 0. X will be lesser than a dot size, and we will have x plus plus. And now we need a control statement. If we have a local variable room equals, we need this will be a boolean, and we will have a vector a of element x dot, and we will use get room. Okay, this is our control statement, and if this condition is true, okay, our room equals to 3, and it needs to be equals to some of the apartment. And when this condition is true, we will just use a of element x, and we will just scan that apartment. And what we will do, we will just need couple of stars to separate, because if we have more apartments, to separate them. Okay, now, and this will be the function that we need. And now here, where is the option? It's option number 4. When we have this case number 4, let's call this function 3 room of apartments vector. And now let's try to run our application. Let's use build and run. Okay, let's select option. We want 3 room apartment. Let's select option number 4. And as a response, we have 3 room apartment, which is perfect. We have 2 apartments that have 3 rooms. It's apartment in Budapest and apartment in Warsaw. Okay, we could just use a little space I forgot here, where we defined our apartment scan field, but this means that this works perfectly. Okay, let me just fix it where we defined apartment scan function. Okay, room, we just need one space, and now we know how to find 3 room apartment, but just want to show you, if this was 2.5, okay, apartment with 2 rooms and 1 small room, 2.5. Now let's run again. Okay, 3 room, we will not change anything, but we want now with if. Okay, as you can see, 2.5, we have apartment in Sofia, which room is 2.5, and this means that this function works perfectly. Of course, if we don't have apartment with that number of rooms, nothing will be displayed, and this works perfectly. And now what we will gonna find. Okay, it's 30 minutes. We need to take a break, but we resolve we will resolve all of these options. We will continue in the next tutorial. Okay, I really hope that you like this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You have a link in the description, and we will continue shortly in the next tutorial.